Hey everyone, thanks for joining live or on the replay. I'm Sandy Hayes, your empath manifestation coach. Yeah, so how's everyone doing? Let me know where you're tuning in from and just how your week's going. The first stage of the spiritual awakening journey is referred to as dark night of the soul. And this is generally brought about by some type of tragedy or trauma, unfortunately. In my experience, well, in my personal experience, I was diagnosed with lupus, which is a chronic illness or autoimmune disease. And so a lot of people tend to get pretty sick. Sometimes it can come about by a death of a loved one, or any other type of tragedy. Yeah, so that's generally how that happens, and your life just tends to shatter and fall apart, or it seems like it's falling apart anyway. But basically what's happening is that we have had this false identity, this ego self that we've built up our entire lives that has been this false persona of who we are. And our spiritual awakening is meant to get us to drop this, to get us to become the version of ourselves that we are meant to be. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about my own story back in the beginning of 2018. So I got diagnosed with lupus, like I said. I was finishing up my master's degree, and I was a really big people pleaser my entire life. I had built my whole persona around being the people pleaser, around making others happy, but mostly at the sake of myself. And I believe that is what led to me getting sick, because I pushed myself way too hard. I didn't feel worthy unless I was achieving something. So I continued pushing myself to burnout after burnout after burnout to prove to people who didn't even care, that people who weren't worthy of me, if that makes sense. And I feel like a lot of us as empaths go through this. So let me know if any of you can relate to any of this. But like I said, my identity was built around being this people pleaser. And I know that stemmed from my own childhood trauma, childhood emotional neglect. And basically what happens is a lot of us as empaths, we are very highly sensitive as well. And what happens in our childhood is whenever our caregivers or our parents don't have the emotional tools or regulation to help themselves, let alone us, then we become very hyper-focused. We end up disconnecting from our own emotions, and we become very hyper-focused on everyone else around us, which is how the people pleaser is born. And especially as empaths and highly sensitive people, this becomes really dangerous in a way, because we disconnect from ourselves, we disconnect from our emotions and our intuition, and we can get taken advantage of a lot of the time, and feeling the same. Yeah, it's definitely something that we really go through. And yeah, I know, like I definitely undervalued myself in so many ways. And like I said, getting sick was the time that I actually had to put myself first. Like I didn't have the energy to take care of anyone else anymore. So getting sick was a blessing in disguise for me. It might not be for any of you who at this point, if you're going through the same thing. But for me, I knew this wasn't the end of my story. I knew this was just the beginning. I knew that getting sick Well, basically, my mom, she has had chronic illness basically since I was born, around that time. And she's gone from doctor to doctor, medicine after medicine, surgery after surgery, and with just getting worse. And I told myself, if I ever get sick, that's not going to be my path. And I told myself I was going to do this differently. Not that I have anything against doctors or medicine, like they are amazing, but when it comes to chronic illness, there's not much support out there for us, unfortunately. So basically what happened to me is I pushed through. I finished my thesis for my master's degree and I graduated. But then I reached, and I had gotten diagnosed with lupus a few months before, and I was like, oh, it's fine, like I can keep going like normal. But then, like I said, I reached this point of burnout, and I even have this list of 40 plus symptoms on my phone from that period of time of things that I was going through: brain fog, food intolerances and sensitivities, chronic fatigue, joint pain, muscle pain, rib that pops out, neuropathy, all the things. Like I could barely even carry the groceries from my car to my second story apartment without needing like a full day to recover. That's how drained of energy I was. That's how sick I was. But during that time, I found, at least for me, what my intuition led me to was more plant-based. So I started working on cleaning up my diet and focusing on the physical side of things. But I'll get to that. Sorry, I'm going off tangent now. Let me just look at my notes, make sure I'm not missing anything. But yeah, some of these signs of the dark night of the soul are you feel a lot of negative emotions such as anger, sadness, grief, and a lot of these emotions come up and you're not sure why they're coming up now because you've been able to control them before. And when I say control, you generally have some type of coping mechanism. For me, it was overeating. For me, it was anytime I felt anxious, I would eat. And then I would also drink. I definitely a binge drinker for a lot of my 20s. And I knew it was all to numb these sensitive feelings, these emotions that I was feeling and I was never taught how to deal with. So learning how to really deal with those, it's a lot, and this is why I help people with this now, because I understand how overwhelming this whole process is. So if any of you do need support in this, I do offer one-on-one coaching support, and then I also offer energy healing, Reiki energy healing, and Akashic Records readings as well. If any of you are looking for guidance on where you're at in your life. But back on track. So with those negative emotions that are coming up, you try everything to fix them, but nothing works, and it ends up actually backfiring most of the time. So even you already feel bad, and then you end up feeling worse on top of that, unfortunately. And also during this stage, this is when you start to blame your parents or your caregivers as well. You think if your parents were different, then things would be better for you. And that's very valid, but at the same time, it's there's two sides to every story, and something I've also worked through and continue to work through. And I want to say that even though I started going through the spiritual awakening journey over 3 years ago, doesn't mean that I'm any higher than you, like I should be put on a pedestal. Like I am still learning and healing and growing through this process, as are all of you. But I can't talk. So another sign is that you feel alone. You feel like nobody understands you, and this feels even more so than before. It feels very in your face. It feels like, and even though you try and talk to people about what you're feeling, and maybe they're sympathetic, which is great, but if they're not going through it, they don't understand. And then it often makes you feel even more alone. And then also during this phase, like I said, you feel fatigued, you feel exhausted. A lot of people have health issues to some degree. And I also had anxiety, which a lot of people have anxiety and depression during this phase. And yeah, and it's just a lot going on. And with the onset of all of these emotions trying to come up, to be purged, to be released, because the way that we heal is, when I say heal, I'm not saying that we're not whole and worthy as we are, because we are, but a lot of times we have so much baggage from our lives that we have to unlearn or decondition ourselves to finally become this version of us that is us, if that makes sense. And said for me, with similar, drinking, eating, depression, all that negative emotion led you to almost divorce your husband, but you stopped in time. You think, bless you, dear, I know how it feels. Yeah, it's tough, and I'm sorry you went through that as well. It's definitely not an easy process for any of us, and yeah, I hope things are better with your husband now. I really do. Let's see here. Yeah, and a couple other signs during this stage. This is, like I said, the most known stage of the spiritual awakening journey, I would say, and the one that's most of us tend to struggle in the most, because this is the first stage of it, like I said, and the stage can last for months to years, just depending on where you're at and what's going on. So a couple other symptoms or signs are you feel like there's a gaping hole in your heart. You feel just, yeah, you just feel like this lack of love, and you start feeling, you start understanding like it's always been there, but you've just been able to cover it up. And now that you're awakening, you can no longer avoid it. Your normal coping mechanisms don't work anymore. And then you also start going through some existential crisis, such as, who am I? What am I doing here? What is all of this? So just all of us are just really in this stage starting to wake up and starting to question things. And also a lot of us are very disconnected from our physical bodies. For me, I was very ungrounded, very disconnected from my physical body most of my life. I would say that I was a floating head. Like, that's how I would categorize myself. Like, I existed here up, and like here down, I was very disconnected. Like, I couldn't even, like, I avoided looking at myself in the mirror. Like, that's how disconnected I was. I tried to avoid taking pictures just because, like, a lot of body dysmorphia, just so many different things related to that. And this journey brings a lot of this up to heal, but trust me, it is worth it to figure out the root cause of all of these things and to be able to let them go. And I know a lot of this sounds very overwhelming and very just so much, but this is the toughest stage. This is our literal, like, rock bottom of life, and this is where we just can go up from here. So I just want you to know, if this is the stage you're at, it does get better from here. And said, for me, I did hate myself. Yeah, I definitely hated myself. Like, there was no love. No love. I was taught implicitly, basically, well, maybe in all ways, like, I felt like I wasn't worthy because of my size. I wasn't worthy of love. And that's a huge shame I carried with me my entire life. And then, yeah, it's one I've mostly released and worked through, but still a little bit there. And I'm sure there always will be to some degree, just because we don't ever fully release. We feel like we do heal, and then we get to another stage where we get triggered again by that thing, and we just continue healing it on a deeper level. You said, how do we know what stage we are in our spiritual journey? Yeah, I'm going through all of them now. And I'll let you know some different signs, and I'll let you know more of like my own journey and see if that helps you piece things together. But it's really just learning to listen to your intuition and just what feels the right for you. So we're gonna go on to stage 2, and this is the Ray of Hope stage. So as we go through the dark night of the soul, we still cling on. There's still just like this little shred of hope that we hold on to, and it starts to expand in this stage. So basically, like I said, we find something to cling on to, some type of hope that things are going to get better. Even if it's just like 1%, like we just hold on to this, like things are going to get better. And then I also want to mention that these stages are not linear. So, I mean, for the most part they are, but you can go back, you can go jump a couple, it just really all depends. And for me, I've personally had multiple dark nights of the souls, dark night of the souls. I'm trying to think of the right pluralization for that. But the subsequent dark nights that I've had have never been as intense as that first one. It's all just very minor compared to that. So nothing to worry about there if that happens to you. But in this stage, you start seeing the bigger picture of the lessons and the things that that you've been working on healing in your dark night. So basically a lot of things that have been going on. Like I said, for me, I got diagnosed with chronic illness, and I just told myself I was going to heal. And in less than a year, I had healed probably about 30% of my symptoms naturally. And like I said, I'm not against medicine at all. It just wasn't for me. And at that point, I started realizing that there's more to it than just the physical healing. A lot of our healing has to do with something called emotional inflammation. So a lot of our chronic illness, a lot of our chronic symptoms have to do with repressed trauma and repressed emotions. So that really causes us to get sick, is because we don't know how to deal with these emotions. We don't know how to deal with the shame, guilt, things that come up during our life. And instead of, like I said, knowing how to process these and release them, we hold on to them. And then eventually that causes us to get sick in some way. And like I said, at this stage, we start seeing that bigger picture. We start seeing, like, this is why I got sick. This is, like, if I didn't get sick, I probably wouldn't have stopped taking care of others and sacrificing myself. Like, I needed this kick in the butt, basically, to know that this is where I was meant to be. And then you also start seeing how these lessons that you're going through also relate to your soul purpose. We all have unique gifts and unique experiences, and they all add on to each other in a way that ends up being your soul purpose. Whether it's you're meant to just take care of a single person like a child, or you're meant to start a business, or however it comes out, or help people through your career. Like, there's really no one path for everybody. And then also during this stage, you start seeing repeating numbers and signs or synchronicities. So I don't know if any of you ever see repeating numbers, but this is the stage where I started seeing 1111 a lot. And generally when you're in your initial awakening stage, 1111 is the one that you tend to see most often. And yeah, I would see it all the time. I'd look at the clock, it would be 1111. I would be driving and I'd see a license plate and it said 11111 on it, or like a phone number would pop up on my phone and it would have that. Just really random things. And since then, it's just, I see them constantly, all day, like every day. And I love it. It's just reminds me that I'm on the right path. These are all angel numbers. These are all numbers from our angels or from our guides. And each number means something different. I mean, something similar, but something different. So you can always Google that. If a number pops up, you can just say 1111, angel number, and then you'll be able to look up the spiritual meaning of that. Let's see. Yeah, so during this phase, like I said, I got really sick. I had just started a new job after graduating. I was really trying to push through, and again, while still taking care of myself. But during this healing phase, it was very hard for me to do anything. Like I said, I barely had the energy. I had the energy to get to work, do work for the most part, and come back, and then there really wasn't much else. And I eventually, towards the end of the year, it was just so much pressure and I lost my job. How do we know what empath we are? As I feel like I could use all of them. Yeah, there's different kinds of empaths, but yeah, we can talk about that separately here, since I feel like that's a little separate of a conversation. I think if I'm understanding you correctly, I know. Yeah, and there are multiple types of empaths too, and it just really all depends. I mean, we could be emotional empaths, we can be physical empaths, we can be, and each of them have different signs from there as to what they are. I know for me, I'm emotional and physical a lot, and I do pick up on others' emotions, and I also pick up on others' physical issues, and I know that's contributed to my health issues as well. So hopefully that answered your question. Let's see here. Yeah, just looking at my notes, see if there's anything else on this stage. And yeah, the ray of hope, this just continues to unlock and open up our intuition more, and we just keep getting more signs for that we are on the right path. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad that helped. I wasn't sure if I had understood it correctly at first, so I'm sorry about that. Let's see here. But yeah, so basically I lost my job, and less than a month later, I had already found and started a new job. So that was a synchronicity. It was the same type of job, and just the atmosphere was so much less stressful, and the people there were friendlier. And like, even though I didn't do great at the last job, this job was just so different. Like, I just excelled in it. And also by that point, I had healed a lot. Like, my brain fog was mostly gone, and I was a new person by that point. And I was really grateful that I was able to get that new job. And then the synchronicity with this new job as well, or one of the synchronicities anyway, is that when I was taking the bus on the way home from work one day, I normally don't like look out the window or anything, but something drew my attention out the window when I was like a few minutes away from my house, or my apartment at the time. And I looked, and there was this new shop that had just opened up the street from me. And when I Googled it, it was this new crystal shop, new age shop. So a few weeks later, I went to check it out, and yeah, that was a really big part of my journey, is finding this shop, finding everything there. Like, they had crystals, but I also found people who understood what I was going through, who did a lot of the things I'm into now. They did Reiki energy healing. They're the ones that I got attuned through, and I'm just really so grateful that I found them. But yeah, they really helped me as part of my journey. And then also in a lot of these stages, things continue to fall apart still. That's a common thing, because as we continue to find new things and find our way, and in order to let in the light and let in higher vibrations and let in the light, we have to shed the dark. We have to face our shadow and release it, release these old beliefs, release these old patterns, but do it in a way that's loving, and not in a way that's shameful, because that's just going to continue that pattern of holding on to those. Drink some water. All right, so then the third stage is basically you reach this place of inquisitiveness. And I reached this stage, like I said, I found these spiritual teachers at this shop, and I just started learning about all these new things, manifestation, realized I was an empath. I started learning about past lives and reincarnation, and energy, and like energetics around money, and around relationships, and just like seeing things from this whole new perspective. And I was obsessed. I mean, I'm still obsessed with learning. Like, I don't think that's ever going to go away. That's just who I am. But I was like so obsessed. Like, I just wanted to read all the things that I could get my hands on. Read and listen to like podcasts and audiobooks and ebooks and regular books, just like all the things that I could get my hands on. It was just a very expansive time where I was able to intellectually learn all of this stuff. Now, the reason I say intellectually learn is because there's actually 3 phases to the learning process, and we can learn things intellectually, but until we actually embody them and experience them, that's when it goes into every layer of who we are at that point, which is key to this. But at this stage, it's just the intellectual learning process for the most part. So yeah, during this phase, I started to attend these Reiki moon circles. So basically, there were new and full moon circles where we all sat in a circle and we held hands, and we sent Reiki to each other. This was even before I was attuned, but just having one person do that we were able to do that. Yeah, it was just really amazing. But it was learning to train my mind as well, to sit still and sit silently for long periods of time. It was very challenging to my ego, who was used to being busy all the time and constantly having things to fill my mind. So learning to sit still and meditate and really like make space in my brain, and for my intuition to be able to come through was key. But not saying it was easy. It definitely took work to do that. But yeah, I continued doing that, and it just really helped so much. And this is why I always recommend everyone to meditate, just because it really helps with really anything you're going through. Looking at my notes here. Yeah, like I said, I started learning about everything. yeah, I felt like I had wasted my life up until this stage, or up until this point, with like pointless things like partying and just trying to take care of others. And I was finally unlocking these new interests and new passions in myself. And I was like, finally learning to put myself first. And it was amazing. Just really unlocking all of this. And during this point as well, I was married. So I was married. I'll get to the rest of that later. Now we're divorced, but, yeah, let's see here. Yeah, but like I said, I was really obsessed with all of this, and I just started living more for myself, and my husband at the time did not like that. He wanted to be taken care of, and for the most part, I was okay with it up until that point, because that was my identity that I had created, that had been created and was me for most of my life. Like I said, as I started shedding this identity, I started releasing this need to please others, and everyone around me who I had pleased my whole life didn't like that. Like, they started to notice these differences in me, and it was a change. It was a lot of friction. This is when things start to fall apart more. This is when you start to lose relationships. You start to lose, or maybe almost lose, relationships, whether it's platonic or romantic. You just really start to lose a lot of people in your life that were part of your old identity and not part of your new identity now, or who you're becoming. So that is why that happens, and it's just part of the shedding process, that we are getting rid of or releasing these old things that are no longer part of who we are, in order to make space for better things to come through. Yeah, but during this stage, it's really great just to be open-minded and just learn about whatever you want. There's so much out there when it comes to spirituality and personal development and healing, and so I was taken in so many different directions. So yeah, just be open-minded and see where it takes you, if this is where you're at, and just learn. Like, if that's what you feel called to do, just learn. Just and said self-love, crystals, and meditation. It's helped a lot, at least for me. I feel peace the first time after many years. Oh, I love that. Yeah, self-love is, well, and the crystals and the meditation really help. All of those are great. But yeah, finding that self-love, that's like the whole part of the spiritual awakening journey, is learning to love ourselves and learning to value ourselves and put ourselves first. So that's really my perspective on it. And I love that. Yeah, you've really gotten a lot out of this as well. All right, let's see here. So stage 4 is denial and some inner conflict. So basically, this is the time where you're not only just learning about things on an intellectual level, but you start experiencing them. So your mind starts to open more from meditating, and you might start, your psychic gifts are going to start coming online as well during this stage. And your ego does not like that. Your ego wants you to stay safe and stay small, and your ego is going to try and convince you to say, to think that you're crazy, to think that you're making it up, like no one's going to believe you. Like, these are all thoughts that are going to go through your head. This is all your ego. Yeah. Self-love makes your ego soar. Is that wrong? Soar? Do you mean sour? Or... Yeah, because normally, like, I mean, with our ego, we don't, yeah, during this stage is when we're connecting to our psychic gifts. This is when we're also connecting to our psychic gifts and our intuition and our higher self. Yeah, and I guess self-love can make your ego, I mean, not that the ego doesn't like self-love, it's just the ego doesn't like change. The ego wants things to remain the same. So I don't think it's wrong if that's what's happening. Yeah, generally the times that I've tried loving myself more, my ego's like, well, you're not worthy of this love. So then it tries to sabotage whatever's going on. So I've had the opposite experience, but we are all very unique in this. Yeah, but like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, and it could just be that you might not even know the difference between your ego and your higher self. And it could just be that it's your higher self. And you just, like I said, might just not realize the difference there, which is perfectly understandable. It takes a lot of effort and work to be able to differentiate between the two voices in our head. And our ego tends to talk in fear and keeping us quote unquote safe. So basically when you want to do something new, your ego is going to be like, oh, what if people laugh at you? What if people judge you? Like things like that. That's your ego. Your higher self is never going to judge you. Your higher self is all love and support. So hopefully that helps you to know the difference there. But yes, so stage 4, this is when our ego likes to come through and just try and invalidate what you're going through. Just looking here at my notes. Yeah, so your ego will try and tell you that it's a coincidence, that, like I said, this can't be real. I didn't hear that voice in the voice in my head, which is my own voice, but like, why did it tell me like this thing and I followed it, and then this, like, everything, like, it's hard to explain. I'm trying to think of a good example from my own point of view or from my own experience. Yeah, I guess a good experience, this was last year whenever things are really falling apart with my now ex-husband. But I was really at my wit's end. He just was not understanding my passion with wanting to help others. And I was crying. Like, he was working, he was a workaholic, working 7 days a week. So I was crying, I was in bed, I was just like, I was exhausted. I said, I can't do this anymore. I just can't please him anymore. I just don't know what else to do. And this voice, my own voice, came through clearly, and it said, because I was the one who was always cooking and I did most of the stuff around the house, and it said, stop cooking, like, don't cook anymore. And I was like, and then my ego was like, oh shit, like, well, I can't do that. Like, what's he going to say? What's he going to do? Yeah, and it just, but I knew like that was what I had to do, and that's what I did. Really setting that boundary, and setting those boundaries are scary. They challenge our nervous systems because it's something we're not used to. But that's an example. So hopefully that helps. Let's see here. But during this stage, our brain is literally rewiring itself. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of neuroplasticity, but it's the science behind the fact that we can rewire our brains, and the fact that many of us, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this, that our trauma is not only our trauma that we carry. Basically, we carry our ancestral trauma in our DNA, and that's been scientifically proven. So basically, our grandmother, she carries the eggs of our mother and ourselves at the time when she is born. And that is part of the way that we carry those ancestral trauma on. So not only do we have current life trauma, we have past life trauma, and then we have ancestral trauma. So a lot of that equals what our karma is, and what this negative karma that we carry into this life in order to deal with, in order to let go of. So that's what this whole journey is all about. But yeah, this stage is like things start to happen at a deeper level than just intellectually, and our brain, our ego is like, what is happening? WTF, I don't like this. Like, this is like, this isn't real. Like, just trying to, like I said, invalidate you. And just our ego just cannot comprehend it. But like I said, things continue falling apart. What else? Yeah, I just felt like I was torn between two worlds at this stage. I felt like I was in this world of my old self where it felt safe, where it felt like, well, I at least have somebody who wants to be with me. What if nobody else wants to be with me type thing. So that was my ego coming through as well. Like, if I left this person, then I would never find somebody else again, which is just a story that I created in my mind. And just to let you know that our thoughts are not us. Like, we are not our thoughts. We can rewire these thoughts and change these thoughts that we have. But then this new world I was in, I felt like I was in this world of magic and mystery, and I loved it. Even though my ego was like, what the hell's happening? I don't like this. Like, for the most part, I loved it. Like, I grew up watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the original. Like, I loved all things magic, all things like that. And this was like a dream come true. It was like my inner child was loving all of this. Like, yeah, and I was just opening up my intuition more and really learning to trust that. Now, stages 3 and 4, you tend to go back and forth between the two for a while. So that is very common as well. Okay, now we're about to do stage 5. I'm gonna take a water break. Yeah, let me know if anyone has any other questions. All right, so stage 5 is the spiritual makeover stage. So basically, this is the stage where we experience enough things that our ego is like, okay, this is real. And it just learns to let go more and more. Your ego is never going to completely go away, but during this whole process, you go through many ego deaths, and that's just learning to let go of these false identities that we've created. But you get to a stage where you actually befriend the ego in a way, and you, at least for me now, whenever I have a thought that pops up that's like, oh, you can't do that, what are people going to think? I just say, thank you, ego, for trying to protect me, but I'm safe, it's fine, it's okay. Let's see here. Yeah, but why can I not talk tonight? I'm sorry. But the spiritual makeover stage. So basically, at this point, you realize that things are no longer a coincidence, and you are learning to trust that everything is happening. And also at this stage, you start, as you're really waking up, you start feeling very angry and sad for the state of the world, and you try and help others wake up as well. And you know, like, this helped you, so why can't it help other people? But I went through this, and this is a lesson I had to learn as well, was that we can't force others to wake up and before they're ready. And a lot of people are not going to be ready in this lifetime. More people are going to be ready in this lifetime than ever before, because we are continuing to wake up at greater and greater numbers, which is astounding and amazing. But like I said, we're not all meant to wake up in the same way. We're not all meant to ascend to 5D, and even if we're on this path we're always going to be continually healing and learning and integrating things at new levels. So there's not just this one place where you're going to be 100% healed, because you might heal something, one piece 100%, but then there's going to be new layers and new things that come up. So there's literally never an ending point. So this is why you need to find that self-love and know that you're here for yourself along this way. But for me, I would personally rather grow and have challenges that way than stay stagnant. And because I know if I didn't push myself and challenge myself to grow and heal over 3 years ago, I would be in a completely different place. Now, and I just want to mention as well, like I told you before, I was able to heal about 30% just by doing the physical changes. But since all of then, focusing on the emotional and the spiritual aspects, I was able, and incorporating a lot of energy healing, I've been able to heal about 80%. And I feel much better than I ever have my entire life. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be setbacks, because there are, and but for the most part, I've, like I said, healed so much from everything. I'm really grateful for that. But getting off topic, let's see here. So during this stage, you just become way more self-aware of everything that's going on, and you just, like I said, just start to open up way more than ever before. Now, one experience for me with this was I attended one of those Reiki moon circles, and I had read somewhere that you could set the intention before like a meditation or whatever to go back and do like a past life regression in a way. So I set that intention for myself, and I went into what I now know as the Akashic Records. And basically I went into this giant room that, I'm trying to remember the specifics. But yeah, I remember walking up steps that were made out of clouds in my mind. So I walked up these steps that were made out of clouds, and then I walked into this room. It was this giant room. It looked like a library. And there were wall-to-ceiling books. And there was a podium with one book on it, and there was a man there, and he had it open. And I knew that this was my book. So basically the Akashic Records are the your records for your entire life journey, past life, past lives, your present life, parallel lives, and then also future possibilities. And basically a lot of us, we carry this karma or these patterns from life to life until we can finally put them to rest. So a lot of times that something that we're dealing with right now in our current life has a past life root. So that's part of what I do with Akashic Records, is being able to go back and heal what's going on from that past life. And it actually heals it now because time doesn't really exist. Time is just a man-made construct. In energy, there's no time and there's no space. There's space, but there's no distance between us. We are all interconnected through energy, which is why distance energy healing works. So back to what I was experiencing. So yeah, I asked him, I just told him I wanted to go back to a past life where I set that intention. And he said, I'm going to show you, what did he say? I don't even know if he spoke. I just knew what he said, but without words. But then all of a sudden I was in my past life. I was this woman I was taller, skinnier, I had longer black hair almost. I was told I was near Hawaii, but it was very old time, so it was even before Hawaii was that. So then there was this fire nearby, and there was just like a bunch of people near the fire, and my son ran up to me at that point. He was like 2 or 3, and he ran up to me. Like I had walked off from the crowd and walked to the ocean, to just the beachfront there, because we were on the beach. And he ran up to me, and we held hands, and then we walked back up to everyone, and then I realized that I was the healer of the town. Like, I was the woman who everyone went to for healing. And I just know, like, being a healer is something that I was meant to do in not just this lifetime, but it's something I've done in many past lifetimes. And since then, I've gotten had other experiences where I've been able to know, like, this is what I'm here to do. So let me know if any of you have had any similar experiences or anything that you feel like something similar to that. So yeah, I'd love to know. All right, so that is that spiritual makeover stage, when you get to that point where you just know, like, this is really what's happening. So then last year, I feel like I said, that was almost 2 years ago now. But then last year, I started going through a lot more awakening, a lot more learning, a lot more experiencing, a lot more just inner work and figuring things out. I even decided to go do plant medicine, ayahuasca. That was really eye-opening and mind-opening. I did that actually about a year ago now. Exactly. But stage 6, these ones I'll go through a little bit quicker, since I feel like most of us might not be quite at this stage, but if you are, feel free to let me know. Anne said she discovered you were burned because you were a witch. Yeah, that's a really common one. We hold on to this. We have past lives as witches where we were killed in either the Inquisition or the Salem witch trials, or yeah, those are the 2 main ones. I know I was killed as a witch in 2 past lives, so that's something I worked on healing this past year, because yeah, having this witch wound, it really, like, even though our gifts are opening, we tend to unconsciously block them because we're afraid of that same thing happening again. Yeah, but stage 6 is the spiritual ego. So this is the stage where we think we're people who are woke, I guess, are, we know better, or we're just better than the people who are unawakened. And that's definitely a stage I was in for a little bit too, and it's normal. It's just like our ego getting in the way in a spiritual way, and just saying, oh, I'm better because I know, like, this is what's happening. And this is the stage where people who are vegan try and push that on you. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but this is like the, oh, if you're not vegan, you're not spiritual. If you're not stop that. Sorry, my cat wants attention. Yeah, so that's one example that I've come across. And the 7th stage is the stage where you're grounding and really getting serious about what you're here to do. And basically the stage is just clearing more of our karmic debt. And this is when we start really getting into energy healing. We start getting into yoga and breath work and hypnotherapy and just all the healing modalities that are out there, and learning to heal ourselves on deeper levels, and learning to work with tarot or oracle cards or pendulums, or just really starting to work with all of this. This is like the mysticism stage, of where we are really discovering things that call to us. Yeah. Right. And then stage 8 is the coming out of the spiritual closet. So basically this is the stage where we start, like, posting on social media, like, about this kind of stuff. We start, like, showing the side of us to our family, to our loved ones. And yeah, when I started doing that, I don't know, even though my family's not into it, they just went with it, like, because they love me. And yeah, I wish I would have known that before. Not that I didn't know that they loved me, but I wish I would have known it. I wouldn't have been rejected for that sooner. But everything comes in its own time. But yeah, this is the time when you really start putting yourself out there more, just like I said, more on social media. And this is the time where you start attracting your soul family more and more. Basically like 1.5 years when I started getting into the energy healing and all of that, and really posting about it more on social media. This is when I've made so many friends, so many amazing friends since that point, and it's warms my heart. Like, I just love it, just because in the past I had trouble making friends, and the friends I did have, they were not great people. They fed into my bad habits, and but these friends were people who wanted to see me succeed. They wanted me to grow and do better, and just having that support was just amazing. Just never really having that before. And I just want you all to know that that's totally possible. And like I said, it just takes learning to come out of that spiritual closet and show you and show this vulnerable side to yourself. Right, and then stage 9 is walking your purpose. So basically this is really when you are embodying everything that you've gone through. You understand what it was all for, you understand what you're here to do. This is the stage when you're really thinking maybe starting a business to help others, trying to find a way to get your business successful and leave your full-time job, something like that. And you realize, like, this is my unique path, like this is what I was meant to help others with. And the last stage is mastering more spiritual lessons. So like I said, we never get to a place where we're 100% healed. That would be nice, but that's not what we signed up for when we came to Earth. We came here to experience this. We came here to experience this contrast, this duality between, and find love and find everything that encompasses when it relates to love. Learning to love ourselves, and as we love ourselves, then we get more love from other people in return. And that's just all part of the manifestation journey. Because I know this group is about manifestation, but I don't think I've ever fully gone into that. But manifestation, people like to say it's magic, which maybe there's a little bit of that to it, but manifestation is literally a combination of your thoughts, your emotions, and your beliefs. And basically your emotions, that's where you vibrate at. So based on how much you've been able to release, the more that you're able to release, the higher vibe or higher vibration you're able to rise. And it's actually been measured scientifically that our emotions do have different vibrations. If you are interested, you can look up Dr. David R. Hawkins. He has a chart that you can Google, and he has a book on it, and how each of those emotions, it just really shows. Now when it ties into manifestation, wherever you're vibrating at emotionally is what you're going to attract, that law of attraction into your life. Now there's 12 plus spiritual or universal laws when it comes to manifestation. I'm just going to give very basic information here. And so basically where we're vibrating at emotionally is what we're going to attract into our reality. And a lot of times it can be negative or seemingly negative, in order to challenge us to address and heal that pattern. So that's basically where we're at. And as we continue addressing and healing these patterns, we continue rising up, and that's when we're able to attract more and better things into our reality. So that's really all manifestation is. And yeah, Whew, I feel like I talked for a really long time. I don't even know what time it is now. Does anyone have any other questions before I end this live? I just want to thank you all for staying with me this whole time. Like I said, I don't even know what time it is. Thank you to everyone who is joining live. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who was able to watch the replay. Feel free to post any comments, and I'd really love to know what you all think. All right, love you all. Have a great night.